Hey, welcome to another live of Becoming a Cop YouTube channel. We are part of the policebackground.net family, and we're also part of the Police Advocate Podcast family as well. And so tonight we're coming to you live because we have I think an episode that people will enjoy. With me right now is the great Rob Berry. And tonight's episode is going to be about how to choose a department. And we've got a couple of little angles on there. So, Rob, how are you, man?
A little tired, but I'm doing all right. I'm long days, just put it that way.
Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself and like that.
Okay, so I used to be an LAPD officer for quite a while before I lateraled to my new department that's far away from California.
There you go.
So yeah, I'm working there now, and like I said, long days. And I went through the process for a couple different places, and so I got a little experience, not only from when I initially applied to LAPD years ago, but then getting back into it. So
yeah, and I met you before you ever became a police officer. Tell us a little bit about that story.
Oh, do you remember when? Let's see if you have a good memory. Because I remember exactly the month, the year and the month.
I'm going to say 2008, 2009.
Nope.
What?
It was January 2007. So, okay. Are you talking about when I first met you in person, or when I first actually, met you online?
Probably.
Well, even then, you were still wrong because, it was because I met you in person when it was when I was in the process with LAPD. There's one of my buddies who just joined. Yes, I told him about it. But so I met you, was it probably September 2007?
Okay.
But then so it was way back when you had the forum. I joined the forum in January 2007. So
okay. 2007. That was a long time ago.
Oh yes, don't remind me. It's almost 20 years ago. I feel old.
And I remember when you came in after you got hired. I think you came in for your hair sample or something like that, and you were in a suit.
And you were going to mention
you took a picture.
Oh yes,
that's a long time ago.
But, I'm waiting for you to mention the tie because my tie was a little bit too short.
I remember the suit was a little too big. Yeah,
it's like you made fun of my tie because it was too short.
I probably did.
Yeah, I remember that.
Well, welcome, Bear Grit Chris. Welcome to you, man. Thanks for being here.
Yes, that's. I have a feeling that's one of my friends who he's in the process with a couple different agencies right now. So.
Oh, good. Well, if you need any,
I told him about this
assistance. Cool.
He's going for a third-rate department right now, so he needs a little bit of help.
I'm always willing to help too. If you ever need help, let me know. You know what? His suit was too big, man. I don't know where he got the suit from. I think you got it off the rack or something.
Oh, absolutely, I did. Yeah, which actually, you're talking about, helping applicants. Here is a huge tip that I would give anybody: is when your first day, make sure your suit's, all the loose threads are out and there's nothing hanging. Because let's just say I made that mistake with LAPD and I paid for it.
There you go. Third-rate stuff. That's funny, man. So tonight we're going to be talking about how to choose a department. And the first thing I want to say, and Chris, go ahead and chime in if you want anytime. The first thing I want to say about that is don't apply where you don't want to work. And I'm going to preface that. I'm going to hand it off to Rob because I'm going to preface it with this. I get calls and people have asked me. They go, "Hey, I got a call from." Or I'm thinking I'm getting close to my background getting done at this department, and I think they're going to call me for a job, but I don't really want to work there. And my first thing is, why did you apply there? So don't apply at places you don't want to work, because in police work, Rob, in police hiring, it's like if you get an offer, that's like a gift, man.
That's a
Not
golden
everybody
ticket right
gets
there.
yeah. And so when somebody calls you and say, "Hey, we want you to be part of our department," and you go, "I don't know, man. I wanted to work for this department." What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, so you're right. Like, don't apply. This is the way I look at it. So, most people, most applicants nowadays are applying to, a number of departments, which is a challenge in of itself, just juggling all the appointments and just the paperwork itself. But, because if you apply to multiple different departments, you have to be ready to, if you get an offer from any single one of them, to take it, because you don't know, what's going to happen. Now, obviously, most people have, one or two departments that they really want to work for. That's like on their dream list, let's say, that's a number one. You obviously are going to rank them. But just because you get an offer from somebody who isn't maybe your top choice doesn't mean you can never work for that department. But also, too, every department has its pros and its cons. No department's perfect. Like, it is what it is. But when you get that offer, regardless of whoever, if you applied to them, one, you should want to work for them. But if you get that offer, take it, because then you get in the academy, you hopefully pass the academy, pass field training, and then you can kind of mold yourself into, the kind of officer you want to be. And then down the line, if you do want to work, let's say your number one choice, whoever it is, you have that option now where you could possibly explore, lateraling to that department.
And what about the application process where it's like the shotgun approach? There are. It didn't used to be with LAPD, and I don't know if they've changed the system. But there's used to be you could go on these websites, and you could make one PHS, one application, and then just check off. And people would go, "I applied to 30 agencies." It's because they checked off 30 agencies. What about those types of applications?
So, I mean, I can understand why somebody would want to do the shotgun approach, where you apply to, like, 20 or 30 different agencies. I have a friend of mine who he was using that approach, and I understand, like, it might show, hey, I really want to work for a department, but at the same time, it's going to look negatively against you, just because eventually when you get to the interview phase of whatever department you're applying for, they're going to ask you, well, why us? Why do you want to work for us? If you don't have a good answer, you're going to look, not that great, because, and also too, I think virtually every department now asks, who have you applied with? So if you get to that point, and it's usually when you do the personal history statement, they'll ask, list, hey, every department that you've applied to, when you applied to them, where you're at in the process, have you gone into backgrounds already? They ask you a bunch of detailed questions. And if you list 30 different departments, they're going to look at you like, okay, like, how realistic is it? Do they really want to work for us? Or they just want to work for anybody?
Right.
That's just looking at it from the department's eyes. But then, I dealt with this a little bit. Granted, I didn't apply to 30 different departments, but when you apply to that many departments, you're going to screw up paperwork. You're going to, like, you're not going to be able to keep track of anything or of everything when it comes to all the different processes and all the different applications. Nowadays when you apply, I mean, there's most of the time it's through government jobs, the website, and it's really easy to apply to any departments. Literally click on apply. You've already got all your basic information filled out on the application there. You just hit submit and you've applied. So technically you've already applied to that department, and you can apply, to 30, 40 different agencies within, like 10, 20 minutes. So it makes it, it doesn't look good when you apply to that many departments.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the shotgun approach, and that's going back to the time when there wasn't computers and things like that. I've been doing background since '97, and we didn't have all that. There were no computers, period, to use.
Right.
And so when we would get, at that time when it was all on paper, and we would get an applicant with multiple applications, we would go, oh my gosh, why isn't this person getting hired? And
Right.
so switch back or switch to current, where it's very common for for candidates to just click off boxes about a bunch of agencies. I'm still not a fan of that. The reason is because when a background investigator sees that on a PHS and they see 30 applications and no hires, that's a red flag. Whether
Right.
it's 2026 or it's 1997, it's still a red flag because you haven't been hired yet. So I'm not a big fan of the multiple agencies.
And also too, like talking about my experience, I applied to a few agencies in California, and obviously none of them took me because here I'm not in California. So it does look negatively, even with me, with the history I have with LAPD. They're looking at it from a surface level. They're not going to invest any time or effort if somebody's been non-selected or not chosen by one or two departments. They're immediately going to look, okay, it's a red flag. And this is the thing I tell everybody is, you have to look at the process as not you individually, like how you match up to their qualifications or their standards. It's you compared to other applicants. So if you've applied to 30 agencies and you have a couple that didn't select you, the department is most likely going to push forward somebody who doesn't have that. Regardless, you might be a stellar candidate, but if you have a couple agencies that haven't accepted you, and now you're applying to this agency, they're going to be like, well, why didn't they get chosen?
Right.
And obviously, and speaking from a background investigator, like knowing what they go through, if you've applied to 30 agencies, guess what? That background investigator most likely is going to have to contact a lot of agencies. And that's where your background investigation slows down a lot, because they have to reach out to whoever it is at that department, get your file, find out that, and then it goes back to screwing up information and paperwork, because you have to make sure like everything kind of jives with all your paperwork with every single department. If it doesn't, now that you're going to come under scrutiny.
Yeah, and another thing that background investigators do, and people, I'll tell you right now, you don't want to get caught in this situation where you apply and then let's say a department non-selects you or DQs you, and you've got all these agencies you applied with, but you haven't been picked up by anybody. What background investigators will do is they'll go to that first one, the DQ or the non-select, and they'll go, how come they didn't do that? Or they won't even do anything, and they'll see that you have a non-select or a DQ, and they go, you know what? They were non-selected or they were DQ'd. We're not even going to work that one. And they don't even open the file.
Right.
Because there's too many, and they go, oh, they haven't been hired. We don't want, and then you start getting in this black hole of nobody's doing a background on you, and you may be a good candidate.
Right.
But they're not doing the background on you because somebody else DQ'd you. And so you don't want to get into that type of situation. The question is, can you be blackballed from applying? Yes.
I would say, so not blackballed from applying, because obviously, as you mentioned, you can get I'm pretty certain I was blackballed in Southern California just because I worked for LAPD. Now, of course, that's an assumption, but when you get non-selected a couple of times, you start to wonder, okay, like, and I have nothing in my background that would warrant a non-selection. You start to wonder, okay, like, and like, am I blackballed from agencies around here for some reason?
Yeah. It just depends on how background investigators look at it. But one of the red flags, obviously, is going back to when you apply. how many places, how many
Right.
departments are on your PHS. So one of the other things, besides not applying where you don't want to work, stop doing that, you guys, because if you don't want to work there, there's a possibility an agency that you don't want to work for, you just checked off a box, or they were like your second choice, and the second choice calls you and you go, oh, I don't really want to work there. Rob brought up a very good point. If you do get hired by your second choice, there's always the possibility, now you're a cop for a couple of years, 2, 3, 5 years, and then you decide to lateral.
Right.
You're in a much, much better position.
I mean, if you're, it's so, speaking from experience, it's easier to lateral to a department than try and get hired, like outright.
Yeah, let's see what Chris says. I truly do agree. At first, I applied to a few departments, but I realized as much as I want to be in this career, those said departments wouldn't truly have been happy. Those departments wouldn't truly have been happy in. So now I've been with two. I didn't understand the answer.
He's not all of there. No, I'm kidding. No, I know what he means. I mean, so he's talking about like there are some people that only apply to a couple agencies because like, hey, I really want to work for them. Where you're putting all your eggs in one basket. But then also like what he's talking about too is evaluating. Okay, like you don't just apply to an apartment because it's an opening. You want to make sure, like he said, you want to be happy with them, and so you don't want to apply, like it just goes back to what you're talking about. You don't want to apply to a department you don't want to work for. I mean, because just because it's a possibility.
Yeah, that's true. I understand what Chris is saying. You don't want to apply at a place that you don't think you'd be happy at.
Right.
Because if you're in a department and you're kind of not happy there, it can affect everything.
Yeah. Yep. Just ask anybody in LAPD right now.
Yeah. No problem, Chris. I get what you're saying now. And I agree with you on that. The second part of this is obviously don't apply where you don't want to work. And the other thing is research your departments. Are the officers happy? Do they have good pay? What are the benefits like? And another thing, Rob, that I think is important that I didn't do when I was young, you want to look into the benefits into retirement, the pensions, the medical benefits. That can cost you a lot of money down the road.
I would say, go ahead.
I know. I was gonna ask you, what do you think about all that? There's a lot of research that you need to do.
Right. I mean, there's definitely a lot, and I think looking into the benefits, is big just because benefits do vary, and then retirement. I mean, realistically, most departments have similar pensions in some form or fashion. It might be slightly different. So I mean, for the most part, you're going to be getting a pension, at least depending on the city, because who knows with the way LA goes.
Mm-hmm.
Not to bash on LA a lot, but it's just because I came from there and I know a lot about it. I mean, but you do want to do your research, and also, the thing is, to most, I wouldn't say most, when you talk to officers at any department, you're going to have people who aren't happy there, or disgruntled, or whatever. You have to take that with a grain of salt. From what I've learned from, coming from LA and now working, for a, bigger metropolitan city or department rather, there's going to be, everyone's going to have gripes. Everyone's going to have, oh, don't like this, don't like that. But you have to take it with a grain of salt, and it really depends on your attitude and your mentality on it. I mean, it's all about how you interpret it and, just how you look at it.
Yeah. And I think it's important to, like I say, absolutely do the research on the agencies, because if they're not retaining officers, or officers aren't happy, or they're leaving or whatever. But for the most part, departments have an ebb and flow. I remember, if you talk to most anybody on LAPD in the 80s and the early 90s, they will tell you Chief Gates walked on water.
Oh yeah.
He was just the best chief, and the legendary Chief Gates. But people don't know that somewhere in the late 80s or so, the police department, the Protective League, the officers union, we took a what's that vote? No
Vote of no
confidence
confidence?
vote on Chief Gates. People don't
Right.
know that. So
Even I didn't know that. But you're right. There is an ebb and a flow. But like, bring up LAPD. Like if you talk to virtually, I wouldn't say all LAPD officers right now, but most of them, they all have bad things to say about LAPD. And it's an ebb and flow. Like you said. So, right now things aren't great morale wise with LAPD. They're, you look at any news headline, they're losing officers left and right. I think they said they're slated to lose at least 750 officers this year.
right.
I think to retirement and resignations or whatever they're talking about, but they're only allotted, I think, 240 recruit spots for the academy, and they obviously have issues as far as filling those spots in the academy. So they're obviously not being able to hire for attrition. So that's the like I said, the ebb and flow. They're the down portion right now. Eventually, it's going to come back. I think it's going to be much better than it is right now, but it just depends on, are you going to weather the storm? And it's just like with anything. Like I said, any department, there's going to be good times and bad.
Right.
The bad times, that's usually when people look to, jump ship and go to a different department because they think the grass is greener on the other side. I'm here to tell you it ain't, because, it just isn't. It all depends on how you look at it.
Yeah. And a department like LAPD is really big, and it's a little different because if you lose 750 officers, you just can't replace them overnight. And then there's agencies that are much smaller, and they need 3 officers or they need 10. It's a little easier for them to turn it around once you get a good chief in there, or you get a good, some good policies and things.
Right.
And that's one thing you want to check the policies. Do they align with a place that you want to work? And most agencies, if you're not sure about if you want to work there or not, I would say go on ride-alongs and talk to the officers.
Yeah, that's a big thing. I mean, I wholeheartedly, if you're thinking of any department, try and go on a ride along with them, because then you're sitting with an officer, who, works there day in and day out, and hopefully they'll be honest with you about stuff they deal with on a daily basis. But I mean, that's how you really get to know how the department, is run, how the day in and day out stuff. Going back to like the policies and do they align? I mean, you have to understand too, the bigger the department, I would say the bigger the department, the less connected the leadership is from the day-to-day stuff. So,
Yeah.
Just because, just using LAPD as an example, just because it's, where I came from and probably the most well-known. I mean, the policies of the way LAPD goes, or the command staff, generally, you're not really affected too much when it comes down to like the line officers, the day-to-day stuff. So I mean, that's why ride-alongs is a great thing, because then you get to see how they work day in, day out, and see what it really is like.
Yeah.
Don't necessarily believe what you see in the news.
True. Chris has a question. Here's a good question for both of you. I myself want to go into a specialized unit, in this case SWAT, mainly for the fact that they get the training and funding. Would you say to do your time on patrol, or go pro early in your career when you can? This doesn't have to pertain to SWAT, but any specialized unit. What do you think, Rob?
I mean, so you do have to spend some time on patrol, because that's where you learn your basics. But when you're in patrol, that's where you want to, to get in a specialized unit. Really, it's more about who you know than anything, because obviously when you look at a patrol, it's a big, vast, like, basically it's, think of it, it's a big, I don't know, what do you want to call it? That's a catch-all. That's where everybody is. Specialized units, a much smaller group of officers. So, if you want to get into a specialized unit, you have to have your building blocks with patrol and stuff like that, do a few years, but then get to know wherever you want to go. So if you want to go, let's say, into gangs, or, narcotics or vice or whatever your specialized unit is, you want to start to know those people that are working there, because once they start to know you, then it's going to be easier for you if there is a spot that comes up that you might want to throw your name in the hat to get in there. But at the same time, obviously on patrol, you still need to do patrol, but you want to shine in patrol. So like, you want to be the one that is, let's say, making the most arrests, or you want to be the exemplary officer, not the one that like dodges calls and slacks off. You want to be the one that like, hey, goes the extra mile, does what needs to be done, never gripes or anything like that. You want to show that, hey, you're willing to work and put in the effort.
Yeah, and I would say it depends on the agency too. An agency the size of NYPD, Chicago PD, LAPD, they're large agencies. They got a lot of people in the pool that they can choose from. And, the hard chargers are the ones that you figure are going to go to SWAT and things like that.
Right.
And it might take a little bit to get there. For an agency like LAPD, you probably got to get into Metro Division, do your time in patrol, get into Metro Division, then Metro Division. SWAT's part of Metro Division, and a lot of it is politicking, who you know, things like that. If they like you and things like that. But I've talked to people that are in smaller agencies, and within like 3 to 5 years, they're on SWAT, they're on the special thing, they're a dog handler, and all this kind of stuff where you go, wow, that was pretty fast.
You bring up an interesting point, and so like when you look at the larger agencies like NYPD, LAPD, they have dedicated SWAT units where that's a full-time responsibility, a full-time position. Smaller agency, their SWAT team might be like a side job that you have. So it's your patrol, but then you're also like SWAT capable, put it that way, to where if there is something that needs to be handled that it requires a SWAT unit or SWAT team, then you're tasked with going there, but then you go back to patrol.
Yeah, that reminds me of a situation I had. I was trying to review a background file at a smaller agency in the South Bay, I think it was, in Southern California. And I had trouble getting a hold of the background investigator because I'm used to background investigators being, like answer the calls or they call you back. And I finally got a hold of the secretary, and she goes, well, yeah, he works, he's a background investigator, but he works patrol and he's also on SWAT. And that was like, they probably, he works patrol, but he's on SWAT. And some of these places, some of these smaller agencies are regional SWAT, where they pull from different agencies around the county or something like that.
Right.
So Chris, my bottom line is I like people who have patrol experience, because patrol, that's where you cut your teeth on police work. That's where you get your command presence and you learn how to handle situations and emergency and things like that. So I would say for me, I would prefer, before somebody went into something like SWAT, Rob, you may agree or disagree with me, I like to see maybe 5+ years before you start getting into something like SWAT.
Yeah. I mean, I would say before, you're not going to go, to me, I don't think it's right to go straight into SWAT from patrol, because to me, that's a big leap. I mean, I would go from like patrol to maybe a specialty like gangs, narcotics, a little bit smaller of a unit, and then transition into SWAT.
Yeah. I hope we answered your question, Chris, and you can get a hold of me through Rob anytime if you have any questions. Yeah. Rob and I know each other, and if Rob says Chris is cool with me.
He's borderline.
Yeah. That's basically what I wanted to talk about this evening. And Chris, we do appreciate you coming in here and asking questions, because I said this a couple of episodes ago. The channel's new. I've had it for a while, but I really haven't had the time to put a lot of effort into it. But now I feel really good about the channel. I want it to grow. But the reason I go live, I don't know if you know this, Rob. The reason I go live, Rob. The reason I go live is because I don't have to download the video, edit it, put graphics in, and then upload the video.
So what you're saying is you just don't want to put the effort in, and you're a little bit lazy. Then it's like, okay,
I'm being lazy because it's quite an effort to sit there and it's all slick and everything like that.
I am not technologically inclined, so I would be doing the same thing. I'm like, no, I can't edit.
Yeah, so this makes it easy for me. I give them maybe a little short notice that I'm going to be going live tonight, and then I go live, and then it's up there, and the majority of views are after or within the
Yeah.
next couple days or something like that.
Right.
But
right.
but let's see here. I'm borderline unless he's talking about sushi. I'm not sure what that means.
Inside joke. We actually, so what was it? It was right before I left California. So last month, a few of us went out to lunch, and let's just say he was the first one to tap out because apparently, he couldn't eat enough sushi.
Because he didn't have sushi.
He couldn't finish his sushi, so everybody else had to help him out.
Sushi's one of those things, man, where that's a lot of rice.
Well, we went to a Korean barbecue place, so
I
all you
love
can eat
Korean
meat,
barbecue.
it's so good.
Dude. Korean barbecue is the best. There's a place out by me, and I love the Korean barbecue, but the places in LA, man, they're just amazing.
Yeah.
Korean bar. I worked in Koreatown in Wilshire Division for 15 years, and so all day long Korean barbecue. So I like it. Highly suggested. We are. I want to put up here something that we got going on. I have actually, Rob. I don't know if you know this. I wrote a book on police background investigation. I did. I wrote a book, Inside the Mind of a Background Investigator, and it is good for police applicants and background investigators alike. I think it's pretty concise and detailed in how background investigations are conducted. I think it's only $13 on the website, policebackground.net. And and so that's what's been going on with me and you. I'm going to have you come on once you're fully lateraled over to your new agency. That's going to be cool.
It's going to be a few months for that. So I'm going to be waking up early and going to bed early too. So
there you go.
Yeah, it should be a few months, probably by June.
Outstanding. So, and again, wait, Chris has something. Let's see here. I love what you're doing. I think this can really help applicants, and I will definitely love to post this out to more applicants since I have a platform for it. That's outstanding.
Yes.
YouTube's one of those things where, I mean, there's a way. I see people who post stuff and they get millions of likes, and I just can't figure out the.
I don't know. It's the algorithm. To figure out the algorithm is a full-time job.
Oh yeah, I like to do this. I've always liked it. It's a lot of fun to help candidates and like that. You know that, Rob. I've been doing this since 2007. I had the website up, policebackground.net as well.
I remember. I was one of the first ones to join.
We're still. I've been doing backgrounds long enough. I've had people contact me before the last few years, but about maybe within the last week, one of the people that follows me on Instagram, he says, "Hey, just want to let you know, you did my background, and I retired after 25 years. Want to let you know." I'm like, okay.
So doesn't that make you feel old? You did her background, and she just retired to 25 years. That means you're. Ooh, hey, yeah,
I'm
you're
old, man.
Yeah.
I'm old. I've been doing backgrounds for almost 30 years, and so, I still it's something I like to do. I like to help everybody, and there's people like you, and there's all kinds of people that were on the policebackground.net forums back in 2007 and moving forward, and I'm still in contact with you guys, and you know a bunch of them, so they're still around.
Jeez, I remember. I forget names from there, but I remember the one guy. Didn't he go to Garden Grove? One of the first guys that joined.
I don't remember. That was so long ago.
I just remember it was me and him were like the first ones that joined, and I think he went to Garden Grove, if I remember right. But who knows? That was almost 20 years ago. So
yeah. So I mean, it's hard. There used to be hundreds and hundreds of people on there, but now we moved over. Policebackground.net is where I moved everything to, and then with YouTube, and obviously the podcast, the Police Applicant Podcast. I think that's probably the biggest police applicant podcast there is out there. There's a lot of agencies. I mean, a lot of podcasts that touch here and there.
Yeah.
And then with policebackground.net, we have we have people that actually did backgrounds, and those are the ones that are helping people. And there's a lot of places that don't necessarily have background investigators helping people. And sometimes I've had to sew people's head back on because they talked to some of these folks and then they didn't help them like I would have thought they should have. But at any rate, that's about that. But Chris, thanks for being here, man. We really appreciate you. And Rob,
Thanks,
obviously,
Chris.
thanks for being here too. And if people need to get a hold of me, get a hold of me, Ken, at policebackground.net. You can go to policebackground.net and check out the website as well. If you want to ask Rob any questions, send them to me, Ken at policebackground.net, and I will forward them to Rob, and we'll figure out how to communicate like that. So again, thanks a lot, Rob. Thanks for being here, man.
No problem.